Peace. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's chat about the Instagramification of spirituality, the spiritual aesthetics that don't really get to what spirituality is all about, and that's meeting yourself wherever you are, meeting all of yourself. So in the spiritual community, I see a lot of bypassing, and I was victim to it as well. Yep, I just want to, now that I know that I'm divine source, that's all I want to think about. And I only want to go to the light part, the love and light. And I don't want to walk through my own darkness. I don't even want to acknowledge shadows in myself or others. And I just want to feel good all the time, but from a space that hasn't gone through the tunnel of why I may not feel good in the first place. And that is an issue, and that is bypassing. So what happens when healing becomes a trend and instead of a truth? And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing healing as a trend. Everyone's doing ayahuasca. Everyone's getting a spiritual guru. Everyone is going to Machu Picchu and wanting to, and like embody their seek a spiritual transformation and all that. And these things are beautiful. I've been to Machu Picchu. I have partaken in plant medicine, which I absolutely love. But when we do these things from a place of this thing will help me get here, instead of this thing will help me get here, that's the difference. So if I'm using something external to create and seek more externality, then that is the opposite of spirituality. That's performance. That's aesthetics. And that is dangerous. It's bypassing. Because the core is that as above, so below. The core is the void has created everything. So if from nothing we have existed, and our form has come from nothingness, that means that nothingness is where we will find our somethingness. So people come to me, whether it's my clients, friends, family, sisters, what's my passion? I need to find this out. Like, I want to know why I'm here on earth and what my mission is and who I'm supposed to be helping or whatever. And this question is good. It activates parts of us that want to seek and want to serve. And this is natural. It's natural as a human to desire that. However, that still plays the game of externality. Who can I impact externally so that they can validate me and I can feel better internally? But if we're looking only at the external, only outside of ourselves to create internal shifts or internal truths, then we are actually doing ourselves a disservice, because the real truth is within. The real knowledge and wisdom is within. And it's within the parts of us that we don't want to recognize. It's within the parts of us that are lacking integrity. It's within the parts of us that are lacking empathy and compassion. It's within the parts of us that are not fully congruent with the frequency of love. And so relationships, whether romantic, family, friends, relationships are the best ship to learn for your own spiritual development. That's really why I feel like we wanted to play this entire game and individualize ourselves so we could learn how to relate to aspects of ourselves, because it really helps with growth, if you see it that way. If we resist it, then it causes more fragmentation. And we see this fragmentation in divorce. We see this fragmentation in estrangement. We see this fragmentation with family members not speaking to each other, or not being able to come to understanding or compassion for both sides. And if we're not able to have compassion and empathy for another, then we probably are not extending that to ourselves. And so we are actually our inner critic, or even our inner enemy. And the spiritual community doesn't speak about that enough. How we could be our own inner enemy. Because an enemy is just something that is creating an imposing force to where the initial force wants to go. An enemy is whatever the imposing force is from the initial force and opposing it because it's not allowing the initial force to go where it needs to go. So how can we be our own enemy, our own opposing force? So when you say no, when you really mean yes, when you didn't set a boundary, but you actually don't want to do this thing, when you don't speak up for yourself because it will make someone else potentially uncomfortable. But if everything is you pushed out, that's also a core in spirituality. Everything is you pushed out. All is one. There is no separation. So if there's no separation, you doing a disservice to yourself in thinking and gaslighting yourself to think that this is going to help another person, you're doing both of you all a disservice. It took me a moment to realize this because I was the yes girl. Oh yeah, I'll do this. Oh yeah, no problem. I'll do this. I wanted to please my parents, please my family, my church members, my friends, and even to a certain extent, my followers and subscribers. So I stayed at a certain low spot for so long because it took me a moment to realize that I'm not the only one that has felt like this. And not sharing my story, my wisdom, my perspective would be doing the world a disservice. And I can't even find any like-minded people if I don't share my mind. So this aesthetic trend with spirituality, it's beautiful. I love luxury, love diamonds, love gold, love the physical embodiment of divinity, of luxury, of aesthetics. Because nature is aesthetic, period. Anything that's natural is aesthetic. But this aesthetic is like putting makeup on someone who just transitioned. You know, like they're not here to be cute. They don't even care about how their body looks because they're already in the spirit world. They're in their soul. So that's just for the people who are left here in the 3D. It's a similar thing. So when spirituality is wrapped up as special transformation packages for $3,999 and you're going to get this, this, and that, and the only reason why you're doing this is to feel a different way than how you're feeling now, or to get something shifting in your external to make you feel like there's a shift in your internal, this will only create a hamster wheel of lack of foresight. I think that's what I would like to share, a lack of foresight. Because with spirituality, it's foresight, hindsight, mindsight. It's a 360 view. Spirituality is a 360 view. You gotta look at everything. Other than that, it's not spirituality. It's not really what we came here for. It's performative. So when someone's performing, they're putting on a certain mask to show a certain way and one path or a few paths that may be palatable to the audience. But true spirituality is not here to be palatable. It's supposed to be powerful. And power is in the void. Power is in the darkness. Power is in the unknown. Power is the causation of the effect. But if we're only focusing on the effect, we're only focusing on the outside world, which is effect, not cause, then we are not in the mode that we should be. And we're focused on things that will hinder us and not really help our soul's evolution or the evolution and forward thinking of human consciousness, which is really where we're at right now. I mean, we see AI taking consciousness by its metaphorical hands and really figuring out this thing and figuring out how humans have gaps in consciousness. Right? ChatGPT gives me nuances in gaps in my own thinking that has been really helpful. But also I have to sit and remind myself that this technology is only mirroring the technology I was already encoded with. The divine has already encoded us with oracle energy, with ancestral intelligence. I put up a TikTok the other day, and I was talking about ancestral intelligence, and someone was like, yes, like I'm thinking the same thing too. And it's just like, we are not separate. We are not. Someone in the field is wanting to see a reflection from someone else in the field, and vice versa. But when we're only looking for reflections and we're not thinking about what we're reflecting, we're only halving spirituality. I hope this is all like making sense in a grounded way. So let's dive a little bit deeper. So real awakening. Awakening is understanding, overstanding, and understanding what wasn't in awareness. So you wake up to something that you weren't aware of prior to. That's an awakening. So we could even think of being born through your mother's womb, her vortex, her portal. Now you're in an awakening, the human awakening, because you weren't fully in, like, once you're in the womb, now you're a human, right? But before that, you're a spirit. So you weren't even awake to the human essence, the human form. And then when you come out, you're even more indulged into the illusory of the 3D world that we all signed up for, though. More on that in another video. But awakening is not always pretty. It can be painful, messy, raw, uncomfortable. Being in darkness, uncomfortable. There's birthing pain, uncomfortable. It's messy. The shadows be coming. They be running. They be showing up. When then your relationships are showing reflections of like how you're not taking accountability. Or how you're not moving with integrity because you're saying one thing and doing another. How you're literally shitting on the people that you say that you love. That's where spirituality becomes applicable. Not when we are saging and using crystals and all these fun, beautiful things, frolicking in the mountains. Clearly, these are things I love to do too. Crystals have powerful, potent energies. But if I'm looking for this crystal or for this external thing to create an internal shift in me, then I forgot what the whole thing's about. And forgetting is a part of the process. So no condemnation to anyone who's experiencing these things or to groups of people who are sharing misinformation. No condemnation. Yet let's explore what it is. and why it is. And so as I've continued to grow on this spiritual journey and understand how the divine speaks to me, I've realized that the body is what anchors us from heaven and earth. The body, even in Chinese medicine, it talks about it. The body is in the center, and then there's heaven above, and then earth below. So having somatic resonance with what you're doing, why you're doing it, when you're wanting to shift or manifest, coming to your body. But how do we do that? Like, what does that really even mean? It means connecting. What is the one thing that's invisible that we can consciously do to connect ourselves with the body? There's only one. Breathing. You cannot control your heartbeat. You cannot control the flow of blood through your arteries, through your veins. You can't even control the neurons and how quickly they synapse in your brain and your nervous system. You cannot control any of your physiological responses because they're responses. But we can control our breath. It's our life force. It's our connection to spirit. That's why breath work is so freaking powerful. And so whether I'm working with a client with somatic stretching, whether I'm doing Reiki, whether I'm doing the listening sanctuary, whether I'm even in conversation with my friends and things are getting heated, let's breathe. Let's breathe. On a soul and cellular level, that can relax us down. That can create clarity of mind. And it can also help emotional release. When we release that energy in motion, now we can see, like internally see where the turmoil was coming up. What part of us are having visceral responses to whatever's happening around us in this external world. Because as above, so below, but also as within, so without. So there's discord, and outside of us, there's most likely discord within. And I'm not saying my life is perfect. Trust. I mean, we didn't come here for a perfect life, but we came here for progress. We came here for peace. And we came here on purpose. Peace, progress, and purpose. And so being dedicated to your own soul's evolution can begin with something as simple as being with your breath, as simple as being with yourself in stillness. Because that's where you came from. You came from the void. You came from stillness. You came from darkness. You came from the womb space. The womb space. So back in 2019, I realized that my body was the path. But how did I realize that? It was after having really bad cramps in my hands. I was in dental school at the time, doing a lot of repetitive motions, a lot of detailed eye work and different things like that. Like, as dentists, we only have like this millimeters of a field to see and perform everything that we're doing. And so with that, my body was constantly under strain, and that was creating emotional strain as well. And there's a plethora of other things which then led me to leave that field, which I'll probably talk about in another video. But during that time, I began meditating, really seriously meditating, and just sitting with myself, seeing what comes up, seeing how my body felt. Can I track my nervous system? Not trying to not think about anything, but just notice that I'm thinking. Notice. That was really freeing for me because I've always wanted to be perfect and do things specifically just for outcomes and not for the process. But spirituality is about doing things for the process. That's the gag. That's the difference. That's why aesthetics don't really show the full thing, because it's not showing process. And I'm not saying you should be up on here crying and up on here going through your dark night of the soul and record the whole thing. Like, you don't have to do that. Some people do that. That's not what I'm going to do. I'll talk about my tunnel. I'll share with you my tunnel, but while I'm in the tunnel, my tunnel's sacred. So I want to be there, all fully there with myself, and not try to project it onto other people. But I will show you before the tunnel, after the tunnel, because there'll be another tunnel, but you'll get better at it and move through it quicker. The human experience is the tunnel. We chose to have illusory darkness, have illusory physical experience to make it feel like this is all there is, so we can know that this is what is. So in the world of spiritual aesthetics, how can process be amplified? How can rituals not always be monetized, but be felt? And trust, like, I'm here monetizing my gifts, let's just say that, and sharing what I know and offering different things to people in exchange for certain resources. But is that the only resource that matters? No. Can it switch in the near future? Yes, and it probably will. Before it was cowrie shells, then it was people, then it was cows, then it was this, it was that. Now it's physical moolah or numbers on a screen, really. But I guess I'm here to ambassador a world where spirituality is not a trap. It's a door, a pathway. And so that's why I created SOMA. It's a digital temple. It's where code meets consciousness, where rituals meet depth. Because all on the internet, all I see is very shallow aspects. Even people are asking me after a 15-second reel, what did I mean by this? Can you explain more, this and that? It's only 15 seconds. We only have so much time. But it's the simplicity of things. So if you want to explore deeper spiritual practices, deeper spiritual truths in a multi-sensory way, I encourage you to subscribe to the SOMA, the digital magazine of the New Earth. It has PDF downloads, audio meditations, sacred rituals for you to print out and perform with presence, not perform for external validation. SOMA itself means body, to anchor you here in the human experience, because we're not here to run away from it. We're just here to master it. So it's been a beautiful time with you, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.
I honor God when I honor me. I honor God when I honor you. You honor God when you honor me. If you don't honor God, how could you honor me?